Hello there. So in this video, we're going to do the first of the three free response practice. Well, actually, no, there's only, I thought there were three. Yeah, there's three. I'm losing my marbles. The first one is two problems. They're both short problems, though, so that's kind of nice. The central bank in Sewell sells bonds on the open market. Assume that banks in Sewell have no excess reserves. What's the effect of the central bank's action on the amount of loans that banks in Sewell can make? And this is kind of weird in the sense that, like, if they sell bonds, I really don't know how they can have no excess reserves. It seems a little strange. So, because they would encounter some difficulty, but this is how they wrote this problem. So it would obviously decrease it because there's no reserves to lend. It's strange because they actually can't even sell the bonds unless they're taking something from these banks, and if they don't have excess reserves, then it makes it a little hard to do. B says, using a correctly labeled graph of the money market, show the effect of the central bank's action on the nominal interest rate in Sewell. And so for this, it's just a money market for us, QMISM, and that's vertical again because we kind of know the amount of money in the system is just set by the Fed. I star, if they sell bonds, it shifts it to the left and it pushes up the interest rate and decreases the quantity of money in the system. So that's the selling bonds smaller. And it says C1, what's the effect on the price level? And it doesn't want us to explain that, but I can. PL will decrease, and I'm going to explain it here for you because interest rates went up, so therefore aggregate demand decreased, so therefore price level decreased, right? For C2, it is asking for an explanation. It says real interest rate, and here you actually could go in different directions, and so that this one's kind of difficult actually in some cases for students. So if you said in some sense that it decreases the supply of loanable funds, so you could say real interest rate goes up because the supply of loanable funds decreases. So that's a perfectly valid way to say that. There's some others where you could actually articulate an argument where it doesn't really change. This is an older exam, 2010. So there's some multiple answers that you could give for C2. As long as you explain them accurately and using economic theory, you would actually get the credit for that. But this is the simplest one in my mind because they make the money supply smaller, there's less loanable funds out there, and so the real interest rate goes up. The tricky part is if you use that price level piece, though, right? If the price level is falling, then it actually is also another reason to think about the real interest rate being a higher level. Interest rates are important in explaining economic activity. Thanks, AP. Using money market show how an increase in the income level will affect the nominal interest rate in the short run. So we're again just doing the money market. Oops, boy, that one just kind of trailed off to the side. Interest rate. We have a supply of money and then a demand of money. And so interest rate star, Q star. Now the prompt is increase in income level. And that's another way of saying like kind of GDP, right? Increased, or people are wealthier, right? People have more money. So therefore increased transactions. And if there's more transactions, there's more money demand. So you have to read between the lines on some of these really tough ones to see what they're talking about. So D1, increase. And notice the quantity of money stays the same now, but interest rates go up. Then it says B, using a correctly labeled graph of the loanable funds market, show how a decision by households to increase their saving for retirement will affect the real interest rate in the short run. So A and B are totally unrelated to each other. That happens sometimes on AP tests. So we'll do this, quantity of loanable funds, interest rate, real, demand, supply. And if people are saving more for retirement, it's going to increase that and push the interest rate down, right? And of course, we would want to label kind of a little bit more in there and everything, but that's the idea. And then the last one says C, suppose the nominal interest rate has been 6 with no expected inflation. If it's now expected to be 2, determine the new nominal interest rate and the new real interest rate. So these are expected, right? So the idea is originally the nominal was that minus the inflation of 0 would give you a real rate of 6, right? Because there's no expected inflation. Now it's telling us you're expecting 2, And if it's expected, then everybody's going to adjust to that. And so we'd want to keep the real the same, or keeping the real the same, because everybody looks around and goes, well, it's expected to be 2%, so let's adjust everything to account for that. And so the new would be 8, right? The new, right, nominal would be 8, and the new real would be 6. And that's because, it's, again, it's a change that's expected here. So, all right, hopefully that helped you. See you next time.